in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to make your own sweeps and transitions from one idea in your track to another. So there's a few key ways to do that, and I'm going to look at both of those. One involves a self-oscillating filter, and the other one essentially involves noise sweeping through your track. So what I'll do is I get stuck into Ableton and show you how that's done. It's very simple and straightforward when you know how. I'll just get rid of my head first of all. There we go. We're now looking at Ableton. So let's look at what I mean, first of all, by a transition and what I mean by a sweep. Well, if we look at this idea here, as this track starts off, so there's drums, an arp, a pad and bass, and I'm going to move these to get them in order as to when they come in. So the drums are first, and then there's a change in the drums here. The color basically lets me know that there's a change. Then we have the pads coming at the same time, and after 16 bars we have the bass coming in, and then the arp coming in at 25 bars. So between bar 16 and 17 there's a change, and between bar 24 and 25 there's a change. So I want some type of kind of nice transition between those two ideas, and a good way to do that is to use the likes of sweeps or filter sweeps. You hear it in lots of dance music, you hear it in lots of any style of music. It's just a way to tie a couple of ideas together. So let's try it first of all. Let's have a listen to these transitions. So if I start from here, and you'll hear now between bar 16 and 17, the bass will come in. So maybe I want some type of transition sound to get from here to here. Now there's a lot of different ways of doing that. You don't have to use a sweep, but in this instance I want to show you how that's done and show you the benefit of doing that. Okay, so first of all what I want to do is open up a new MIDI channel. So Command Shift and T, or Control Shift and T if you're on a PC. And in that MIDI channel I want to pop in a operator. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my arrangement, and within this section here I want to, well actually I could do this right away across the track. So say this is the length of my track. I'm going to click and drag, left click and drag, and highlight this space. If I right click now and insert a MIDI clip, and that will insert a MIDI clip the length of that whole section. So I'm going to call this noise sweep. Okay, so within this I'm going to change the oscillator waveform from a sine wave to white noise. Now these oscillators are off. If you're not too sure of how operator works, that's fine. Long story short, it has 4 oscillators. We've just turned 3 off, and the bottom oscillator we've changed the waveform, and that's basically what generates the sound into noise. So we get this sound. I'm going to press the keyboard here. Okay, so essentially that doesn't sound very nice, and that's okay, but we're going to change that in a second. Now what I want to do is I want to go into the MIDI clip by double clicking it, and I can pop in any note I want here. So I'm going to press B on the keyboard, computer keyboard, and I'm just going to drag this out the full length of the actual MIDI clip, which is 32 bars long, as you can see here. Now it doesn't have to be that. I'm just dragging it out the full length of this, but if I have a track that's, oh sorry about that, if I have a track that's 7 minutes long, I can drag that out the whole distance. Okay, so if we listen back to this now, it's going to sound pretty terrible, as you can hear. Okay, so let's get back into operator and let's set up the filter section now the way that we want it. Okay, so first of all I want to change the filter type to a band pass filter, and that's basically this one here. And what that's doing is it's cutting out the lows and the highs. So now if I press play, and as soon as I sweep that filter, you can hear that as well. Okay. So we're starting to get there already just by popping on a filter, cutting out the lows and the low and highs, and then basically this amount here changes where that cut happens. So if I go to my audio effects and pop in a spectrum analyzer, so this is giving you the frequency content. It helps you visualize what's been cut and what's staying in and what's going out. So if I show you that and I bring this up, you can see that sweep moving right up. So that's essentially what it's doing. You can add resonance if you want. It's really down to yourself as to how aggressive or how smooth you want that sound. The more aggressive you want it, consider adding a wee bit of resonance. Okay, so let's move on. What else can we put in here? I'm going to go straight for, you can try different types of echoes, reverbs, delays, so on and so forth. I'm going to just grab an echo for now and maybe put the echo after the spectrum just so we can see this filter being, or the filter type's been cut off here before the reverb hits it. Doesn't make any difference to the sound. The spectrum, that is. The echo will. I'm going to take the feedback up a bit and the reverb up a bit. So then if I sweep this, so it sounds even better already. Now, another thing that you can do with this too would be to use a compressor. So let's try that. So with a compressor, I'm going to sidechain the compressor to the drums and particularly the kick within the drums, which I've just done. So we should see the kick coming in here now. We should be able to visualize it. And the kick doesn't come into here. So let's go back to that now. There it is. Okay. So if I bring up the filter sweep now, you can hear the pumping effect. Now, there's another wee trick that you can use as well. So I'm clearly rushing through this, but you get the idea. The compressor will pump the sound. The echo will give you a nice echo and reverb, and it helps kind of smooth the sound out a little. The spectrum is just to help you visualize what's going on. And let's bring in, actually, we can just use the LFO. So if I click on the LFO section, and I don't want it to affect oscillator A, it won't make any difference because we're using noise, but that's fine. It's good practice. So turn off the LFO so it doesn't affect any of the oscillators, but I want it to affect the filter, and it'll be affecting the cutoff point of this filter. So if I turn this on, whatever this LFO is set up to do will actually move the cutoff of this filter. So at the minute it's set to a sine wave and it's set to low. You've got low, sync and high. So this is low oscillations, high oscillations. So a low rate or a high rate of low frequency oscillations, essentially, or high frequency oscillations. But even the high is still low. It's high for LFOs, but not generally speaking. So if I then go to sync, basically what happens is the cycles of the LFO is a division of your global tempo. So for example, I have the tempo set to 126 BPM, and the rate of these cycles of the LFO in a sine wave form will be a 16th of 126 BPM. So it'll be quite fast. Okay, so what I want to do is just press play and sweep up and down and change through some of these. We can change the amount. So this is the amount of effect that the LFO has on the filter, frequency cutoff. the LFO also has an envelope, so if I bring this down, this can also affect the sound greatly as well. Now, let's look at changing it from sine wave to square. It would probably be one of the most favorite ones that I would use. I'm just going to create a loop here, Command and L, or Control and L. Okay, and let's go back now to operator. And I'm going to change the rate. I'm going to go to high. It creates a very, very nice kind of squelchy sound. So the higher you go, the smoother that gets, but around about. Yeah, around about here, that can be quite nice. Let's take off the echo. Okay. And let's try sample and hold. You can get some really interesting sounds. Just by experimenting. Quite nice as well. Let's turn on the echo again. A wee bit more resonance. Let's go for low mode. Let's go for square again. Okay, so we're getting some really nice sounds there. So essentially what I would do is stick an EQ on here at this stage, and I would cut out any low frequencies because I don't want them and I don't need them. So then what I would do essentially would be make sure that this one, even I can take this up to around about 156. Okay, so basically when I'm going to automate this now. So around about, I pressed A for automation, and then I'm going to click here on the filter frequency. So when I'm below 146, the EQ is going to cut anything below that out. So then what that allows me to do is to bring this in when I want. So you can get something like this. And you can change this whenever you want as well. Another thing that you can do just to create wee changes as you're going along, say when this bass comes in, you can zoom right in here, and I'm going to turn on draw mode. So I might just spike this here, and you get this type of stuff. Let's have a listen to that again. So that's very small but it's quite nice. It doesn't have to be, you know, all singing, all dancing. I'm gonna maybe turn up the feedback a bit. And you can adjust this end to taste. You know, you can set it up wherever you want. Okay, very nice. So that's one way of doing it. What I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to duplicate this one. Command and D will duplicate it. And I'm going to activate this channel here now. So we're looking at this one. We'll color it differently as well, just so we know we're working on a different one here. So up until this, we've used noise to generate sound, and then we've shaped that sound based on what we have here. So instead of using an oscillator to generate sound this time around, I'm going to knock the oscillators off. So there's no oscillators here at all. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these filters, and I'm going to change this filter type to a low pass filter, which is this very top one. And I'm going to change the filter type to MS2. Now this is basically a model of an analog filter. And if you crank an analog filter too much, it self-oscillates, and the word oscillate is the key here. Oscillate means generate sound, move, create vibrations, and that's basically what we're going to do. So I'm just going to delete the automation here, so I can move this up and down so you can hear it. What I will also do at this stage is grab a limiter. This is very, very unpredictable. So this is to protect your hearing and mine, and maybe your neighbors. So I'm going to take the ceiling of the limiter down to about minus 16 decibels. So nothing will go over minus 16 decibels, which is good for now. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but that's a good starting point. Okay, so essentially what I'm going to do now is take up the resonance above 100, and then I'm going to hold the key and start taking the frequency sweep up. So that sound, let me just turn everything off here. That sound is essentially the filter self-oscillating. So we've turned the filter into an oscillator, which is pretty cool. Keep the limiter on, and let's see where we are. Turn the LFO off. That's it in its most raw form. So you can see what the limiter's doing here as well. So it's protecting our hearing. Right, that's without anything else. If I put on the LFO, that's moving the cutoff point of the filter very quickly, which is very, very nice. Okay, so let's pop on the EQ again. We don't really need the spectrum analyzer, but that's there anyway. I'm going to just delete it for now. Pop on the echo. Okay, and I'm going to just put a wee bit of variation in the echo. Okay, very nice. And so now I could use this to transition between sounds as well. So let's have a listen. So it's quite loud compared to the rest of the music, but you just take the level down and basically find a balance between all of your sounds. So that's two good ways of creating transitional tools for your music. So this one here would be a noise sweep, and the one below would be a filter sweep. They both use filters, but that's just the way that I name them, so I know exactly what they are. So hopefully that was helpful and you enjoyed it. And yeah, see how they can be incorporated in your music. I think a lot of people struggle tying basically tying ideas together, but that's a very, very good way of doing it. So that is pretty much everything for now. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.